say that it's a riveting stall match. You know, that is just two things that don't usually go together. But seeing the innovation in this deck and completely new, something we haven't seen, which is also really cool to see on in an international tournament as well, to see such innovation in such of a different play style as well. Not a lot of players choose to go with stall because it just doesn't fit very aggro format, which is what we usually see. And I think Xander's actually kind of playing the opposite. I'm sure a turbo version of this Dialga as well. So it's kind of completely different play styles that we're getting into. I did see that Greninja in the prize cards for Xander as well, but I'm wondering if we're going to see maybe that Hisuian Pokeball again.
Xander does play that card, so it'll be an excellent option for him to fetch that Greninja out, which is certainly something he will want to do, as it is so important to discard energy cards so you can just get them back with Metal Saucer, and of course it draws you more cards as well.
Absolutely. We saw Xander maybe even trying to pick up that Meowth there and check it out. I'm sure this is not a deck that Xander is probably has practice with, because I'm sure it has just made an appearance here today. So we might see a lot of reading of the cards and checking into things to just know what Xander's even facing off against here. It must be kind of scary to see a Gormandize Snorlax and just a Meowth on the bench as well, and you kind of get an idea with, oh, okay, I kind of know maybe what's lining up here.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Xander had a chance to see what was on the stream in the last round, maybe get a little bit of a peek of Xander's deck. Usually at these tournaments, a big benefit for players like Xander and Mees is people not knowing what you have in your deck list. So being on stream can actually almost be a little bit of a disadvantage, since people get an insight into exactly how your deck is meant to work. But also players talk, you know, people will check out what Xander is playing and try to figure out what exactly is in this wacky control deck that he's brought this time.
Absolutely, and Xander Perot here going unfortunately starting with a Crobat V.
Not ideal.
In the starting position here, and then going in with an Energy Search to search out a basic energy card, reveal it, and then put it into your hands. And just also searching deck as well.
Right.
I'm sure seeing that Greninja is prized for this as well, which is going to be very important. But
yeah, and Xander actually also prized the second copy of Crobat V that he plays. So really unlucky to start one and prize one, because now he's not going to have access to that Dark Asset ability that he normally would love to utilize early on like this in order to try and get through the deck.
And also just unfortunately maybe even becomes relevant in this matchup as well, the Crobat V having that two prize card liability there on the bench too, because as we could see from that control match earlier that Mees is playing now, the Mew V Union does do damage.
It does 300 damage.
And it does damage, yes.
Yeah, it can definitely get in there and take prizes. So it's got kind of two options as far as how to win the game. You either deck your opponent out by stalling them out and just ultimately healing them to where they're not able to do enough damage, or you can really get in there and start to take prizes, and I'm sure that you can definitely take all 6.
Yes, absolutely, and I'm kind of curious to see, we see a Trekking Shoes come down, which is just look at the top card of your deck, and you either choose to take that card, put it in your hand, or discard it and draw another card. So you don't know what that other card's going to be, but at least there's another card. So there's that kind of, we talked about sort of the turbo version of Dialga. Dialga is so interesting because the energy requirement for Origin Form Dialga V-Star is so much for that Star Chronos V-Star power.
Right.
It's 5. Potentially, you usually want to have 6 to do enough damage for some matchups as well. So it's so much energy requirement, and getting into that setup can be kind of a challenge sometimes.
It definitely can be, but if you ever pull it off, it is such a reward for having pulled it off, since you get to take an extra turn from your opponent. That is just one of the most powerful effects in the history of the Pokemon TCG.
Yeah, Xander playing a Zacian V down onto the bench here. That ability, Intrepid Sword, allowing you to just draw 3 cards, and that does end your turn. But if any of those cards are Metal Energy, you can accelerate them onto the Zacian as well, which is what we are going to see right now.
Nice.
2 Zacian or 2 energy cards onto that Zacian V on bench. So there is at least that here for Xander, but not much else I'm really seeing in the hand either. But going back to Mees, as we saw in the control matchup before, there's a lot of decisions to be made with this control deck for Mees.
So Mees having that Snorlax in the active is really kind of how he wants to get set up, is using that Gormandai's ability to fill the hand up. And right away, I think once he's identified exactly what Xander is playing, we see a couple of Miltank being brought to the front of the deck. And this is a matchup where it is going to be really tough for Xander to hit through this miracle body, that ability there on Miltank, preventing all damage done to it by Pokemon V, which of course includes Pokemon V-Star.
Yes, and that's Zacian V, being a basic Pokemon, obviously, is unfortunately that factors in for that. Oh, and we're going to see a Crushing Hammer here from Mees as well, a part of the strategy for control. I think we see Crushing Hammers quite frequently in control decks because you kind of just like want to debilitate your opponent as much as possible. Slow them down a little bit, right? Yes, absolutely, and just make sure that they can't do what they want to do. So unfortunately, it was a tails there for Mees, but we are seeing a lot of that Mew V Union. I almost said Mees V Union. I guess that is applicable as well. But yeah, a lot of that Mew V Union go into the discard pile, and I'm sure as the stream's familiar with now that Mew V Union coming out of the discard pile and kind of assembling on bench is a huge part of this. So you have to have it in the discard pile before being able to do that.
Yeah, I actually wonder if Mees even wants to use the Mewtwo in a matchup like this. It is a big HP Pokemon, 310 hit points, but it does give up 3 prize cards if it were to be KO'd. Absolutely. And that's something Xander could really pull off with a combination of Star Chronos into the Metal Blast, or even with a Metal Blast with just a ton of energies on the Dialga. He could pull off the 1-hit KO. They're still the best cards to just thin out of the deck.
I was about to say, even if you're not going to assemble it, being able to use it for the discard is like perfect fodder. So that is very, very great there for Mees.
And I think we'll probably just see Mees mostly relying on Miltank in this matchup.
Yeah, that is going to be that's going to be interesting to see as well. So we did see I think it was every single piece of the Mew discarded in there, and then we were going to see the Gormandai's to end the turn, drawing up to 7 for Mees there, passing it back to Xander. So in hands, we do see a Trekking Shoe, so being able to go back into that deck, which is what we're going to see now. Drawing off the top the energy, deciding to discard the energy, and drew into a Bird Keeper, which is going to be applicable for another card that is in Xander's hand that I see, the Starly as well. I see a Metal Saucer.
And thanks to the Sky Circus ability, if Bird Keeper is played, Starly can actually attack for free. And that also applies to another card that Xander plays in the deck, which is going to be key for him in this matchup, which is the Rowlet, which can deal 60 damage to a benched Pokemon. That Wind Shard attack can be used for free with the Sky Circus, and that is actually, I think, Xander's only way to hit a Miltank is with this Rowlet.
That is going to be wild. So we did see the Bird Keeper for the switch and then draw into the 3 cards. Another energy attached to the Zacian to be able to get that move off as well, and that is what we are going to see. The knockout on the Snorlax, promoting into the other Gormandai Snorlax as well for Mees, and then drawing for turn.
The last thing you want to do when you're playing against a control deck is just give them time. So Xander is trying to be aggressive here, going in with the Zacian. Not the best attacker. I think you'd definitely rather it be an Origin Form Dialga V-Star, but it's what you got to do. You got to put on pressure. You got to force Mees to respond and force him to get his setup going before you can just take all 6 of your prize cards.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even playing against a deck you're probably not familiar with, you're still kind of figuring it out on the spot as well. So you're working with what you have and doing your best, really, to try to just get those attacks in and start taking those prize cards as much as you can. So we are seeing that roll for the Crushing Hammer. Unfortunately, it was another fail, so that is 2 so far on those Crushing Hammers.
Yeah, when Xander was on with this same deck in the last round, I think he also flipped a ton of tails on Crushing Hammers, so not a great showing so far for the Hammers from this crew, but still plenty of time, plenty of rounds, and plenty of Hammers to be played throughout the event, I am sure.
Yes. So here we go. I think that was
Ultra Ball
there.
Now fetches out another Miltank.
Another Miltank loading the bench up with those mill tanks.
Yeah, and Xander is really not pumped to see that. So he can maybe try and deal with one mill tank. The fact that there's a second one in here, though, and Mees is actually playing 3 copies of that card, I think. No, actually only 2. Okay, so I think that's a difference from Xander's list that we saw earlier. I believe Xander did have the 3 mill tanks.
So we did see the stadium bump there into Rose Tower, and then the play off the Rose Tower to draw until you have 3 cards in hand. So that was 1 draw there for Mees. Not sure what it was there, but I still think there's only 3 cards in hand. So, oh, and we're going to see the Gorman dies drawing up to that 7, but it does end the turn, passing back to Xander.
Xander now drawing the trekking shoes for turn. Really great. One of my favorite cards from the new set, as it just lets you get through the deck so much more efficiently. It works very nicely in these turbo decks.
Absolutely, and we saw the trekking shoes into a quick ball and going to keep it for Xander there. And it looks like also going to use it. Quick balling here. Choosing what to discard here. Discarding the Starly to search out any basic Pokemon from the deck. What is he going for here, Chip?
Now, I wonder if we're going to see the Rowlet here, and Xander's going to try to start to put pressure on those benched mill tanks. Maybe we'll see a Dialga and try to get that set up so we can try to establish a Star Chronos eventually. So it does look like Xander is going to opt for the Dialga, which makes sense. I think what he'll try and do here is take all of his prize cards that he can and then maybe try to sneak in a Rowlet attack here and there. He does have to use the Rowlet's Wind Shard 2 times in order to knock out the Miltank. And one thing about Wind Shard is that Pokemon actually has to be on the bench for you to target it. You cannot target the active Pokemon with Rowlet's Wind Shard.
I'm really wondering if the Origin Form Dialga V-Stars, Star Chronos, taking an extra turn is going to be come into play here for this control matchup. Because obviously control players want to be in control of their deck and want to be controlling your deck as well. So when you kind of shut that off and take an additional turn, I'm curious to see how that will play in if we do get to see it.
So Xander just uses the Intrepid Sword to fill the hand up, draw 3 more cards. Doesn't hit any energies, doesn't need them though because the Zacian is already powered up. Of course, could not attack because Brave Blade was just used on the previous turn. So that negative effect of the Zacian's attack, even though it does a ton of damage, you just can't stream it in back-to-back turns.
Yes, absolutely, unless there's some sort of retreat and then re-promotion, there is only 1 per turn. So at least there is that for me, is knowing that I am safe for 1 turn, as long as I'm not seeing an air balloon or anything like that.
And Xander actually did have a Bird Keeper in hand, but I think wisely was holding off on playing it. Sure, he could switch and then retreat and get a knockout with this Zacian, but that's not really helping him advance his win condition. He needs to keep these Bird Keepers around. I think for the Rowlet is probably what he's most likely going to be leaning on.
And you almost need that time as well to be able to kind of charge up all of those energies too. So almost just taking it slow, pacing himself as well is great. So we are going to see Miltank be promoted into the active here with a Cape of Toughness, adding 50 HP.
And since Mees does play energy cards, he can start to put on pressure with Route. Even though it's not dealing a lot of damage, it starts to add up, especially when your opponent just literally cannot hit you.
Yeah, that is definitely a dilemma there, and until we see some sort of evolution there for Xander, that is going to stay the case. So we are going to see the energy attachment onto that Origin Form Dialga V on the bench, and kind of a large hand here for Xander. There are options there, and I think he's just kind of eyeing down, what do I want to do? What is my route to winning this?
Well, he's just going to go with the Intrepid Sword for now. Keep building this hand up. He must have some path to victory that he wants to try and set up, and is just wanting to amass a larger hand in order to find those combo pieces.
That's what I'm wondering, because honestly, we also worry about decking out when you're playing against control as well. So obviously, there's something that Xander knows about. Maybe not fearing that for some reason, or some sort of other win condition that he will be able to take. And we're just going to see again here with that Miltank.
Yep, swing in with that route attack. 20 damage plus 10 for the base.
So just stacking that damage, and if Xander is still trying to assemble whatever he wants in his hand here, that route is just kind of going for it. working its way around the Zacian, and Xander is going to promote, retreat and promote into the Crobat V. And then
so I think he's just wanting to slow the game down a little bit, actually not even choosing to Intrepid Sword there. And does have a couple of extra energies in the discard pile now from that retreat, so he can use Metal Saucer here. We do see that Dialga V-Star.
We're seeing
and just a pass
turns,
once again.
back and forth. We're just seeing route to pass, to route to pass. So now we are back on Mees here, eyeing down the hand to more Snorlax. A Palpad, a Scoop Up Net, Team Yell's Cheer, and a Professor's Research as well. There's one thing from this deck, it plays so much Recycle, which is very important for control decks. So that is what we are seeing played right now. Shuffle up to 3, any combination of Pokemon and supporter cards back into your deck. And that is what we saw for, I think it was all supporters there for Mees, being able to shuffle and also just loop exactly what you need for your deck to be able to function and get to your win condition against your opponent.
Yeah, it's a really cool infinite combo that Mees has in the deck here. He can use Team Yell's Cheer to put back cards like Silene. Silene can put any card from the discard pile back into the deck, especially Palpad. Palpad can put a bunch of supporters back, which we're seeing right now.
Only Palpad only for the Team Yell's Cheer, but obviously that is a very important card to have as well. So shuffling that back into the deck too, with all those other 3 supporters that we found off of the Team Yell's Cheer that was played this turn. So going back into the deck, Rose Tower drawing into 1. It looks like it was the boss's orders.
Okay.
And then just going back in with that route with the Mill Tank for another 50 damage, 100 now on that Crobat V, passing it back to Xander. Xander's hand now is huge. That is a lot of cards.
What is this, like 15 cards or something like that? You don't really see it too often.
Just an Intrepid Sword on that Zacian. And we are passing it back to Mees. What are you thinking right now, Chip, with this board state?
Well, Mees has kind of identified the one real threat here at this point. It is that Origin Form Dialga V-Star, recognizing that, hey, Xander might be trying to build up a big hand to pull off some crazy Star Chronos play with Metal Saucers. So why don't I just bring this up, go ahead and start working on it, get a little chip damage on it, and also make it so that Xander can't use Metal Saucer now since this Pokemon is in the active spot.
Yeah, that is definitely a huge factor there. So just going back in with the route on the Mill Tank on the Origin Form Dialga this time, and then going back to Xander here, and Escape Rope here for deciding which Pokemon to switch up for Mees, and then also switching back into that Crobat V for Xander.
And a Crushing Hammer does hit heads.
There we go.
That'll remove an energy from this Dialga V-Star on the bench. A Team Yell's Cheer can get more supporters back. Looks like Boss's Orders is the only grab.
I was about to say, we did see the Palpad earlier for the Team Yell's Cheer, so there's really not a lot of supporters, I think, in the discard.
And just maybe not ones that he wants to put back.
Absolutely, yes, that as well. So seeing that go back into the deck, that Boss's Orders, which is actually kind of a card that might be super relevant in this matchup to be able to play around. I mean, we just saw several switches happen with both the Boss and the Escape Rope as well. So being able to target down exactly what you want here is very important, I think, in this matchup. And then going in with the routes as well.
Yep, putting that Crobat up to 150, so one more route will KO it.
Oh, man. All right, so we actually might see some prize cards being taken here in this control matchup. Going back here to Xander. Oh, my goodness. I think this might be one of the largest hands I've ever seen. Obviously, something that is still not in the hand for Xander.
Yeah, just really trying to get access to all options. We see him counting the deck here, debating between using Intrepid Sword and just passing. And he does choose to just pass. So this Crobat will go down here.
Yeah, definitely. Just passing it over back to Mees. All right, here we go. Using that Galarian Meowth to
Evolution Roar.
Those 2 cards.
So now Mewtwo V Union is all in the discard pile. But I don't really think we're going to see Mees go that route this game.
No, I don't think so. I think that is just fodder there. So we do see the Scoop Up Net, and then the Professor's Research to discard both, or sorry, the Galarian Meowth that went back to the hand into a fresh 7 cards.
Pretty nice. Finds the trekking shoes. We see big parasol as well.
Whoa, there we go.
Prevent all effects of attacks done to the Pokemon that this card is attached to. Xander now drawing a card, and actually Mees is just passing, doesn't want to KO this Crobat. And this could be a little bit of a heads-up play, recognizing there's not really a reason for me to attack. I don't need to take prizes to win this game. Xander doesn't have that many cards left, and we actually see Xander is counting both remaining deck sizes. He might not totally know the combo that Mees has to never deck out.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe just kind of seeing if it'll happen here.
Right.
Going back to Mees, and we are going to see the boss's order on that origin form Dialga, and then just back into the route from the Miltank for 120 damage now. That is on the origin form, Dialga V-Star. Yeah,
thanks to Xander benching that Mew, the route now hitting for 70, so we're really starting to see some damage stack up a little bit more. It's turning from, you know, a 7-hit KO into a 5-hit KO, so we're making it a little bit more manageable.
There's a lot of damage counters there on the field, which is not something you always see with the control deck, so it's actually quite interesting to see how this is playing out so far. What do you think about the positions of these players right now, passing it back to Mees?
I mean, Mees is definitely just in a dominant spot here. It's going to be hard for Xander to ever deal with these Miltanks. We know he's got that Rowlet strategy, but he hasn't even tried to go for it this game. Part of me almost wonders if Xander is trying to play out a long game here, hoping that it takes a long time for this game one to conclude. He can get a great idea of what Mees' deck actually does, and then hope to win a really quick game number 2 and just have the match end in a tie. And either player would love to get a win over a tie. I'm sure Xander's just kind of understanding the situation of, hey, I can't realistically win this match, so I'll try to get the tie and take my 1 match point. Not slow playing per se, but just, you know, playing out the full game, forcing Mees to actually complete the game as opposed to just conceding for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the say in the situation, you want to take that 1 point over 0 points.
Oh, definitely.
So that is definitely a factor. And I mean, I guess that kind of speaks to how you play against different play styles, different decks, and kind of the strategy as a player yourself, not even factoring in your deck choice and all of that, but just how do I need to play this match in order to just secure either a win or a tie. So that is very important too. So we're on Xander's turn right now, attaching for turn onto that origin form Dialga V on the bench. We do see so many damage counters here, so just lining up a fresh one now.
Yeah, trying to get the next one set up. We actually see Boss will bring up the Snorlax. I wonder if Xander counted how many scoop up nets are in the discard pile. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. At least 3 down in the discard pile, so we'll have to see a Silene, I think, from Mees if he wants to use another one. I do think he's actually only got 3 copies of that in the deck.
All right,
it does have 4.
The pitch there to draw the card off of the top from that Piamuka-Uku.
Yep.
There.
Send it to the bottom, get a free card. Seems pretty good to me. It's effectively like Mees is playing a 59-card deck.
Yeah, essentially. Exactly. And I think the draw there was the professor's research off of the top there, too. We do see another Crushing Hammer in hand. A lot of trekking shoes I saw in there. And we are just going to see the pass back to Xander. Draw for turn into that ginormous hand.
Xander, I think, only has like 4 cards remaining in deck.
Oh, my goodness. There we go. And, wow.
Yeah, Xander can actually start to attack this Snorlax and deal some damage to it, but I think he's just holding off maybe in case Mees has like a Sharon's Care, doesn't want him to just clear the Snorlax out of play for free.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense to me. Does Xander actually play any sort of hand disruption cards that we could see? Like, are we just going to see a random Marnie at some point?
No, I don't think so. He's got the Avery. He does have 1 Roxanne, actually. So that is the 1 potential disruption card. But obviously, Roxanne only can be played if your opponent has taken 3 prizes.
Prize cards.
And Mees is choosing to just pass and not really be as aggressive.
Yeah, we've actually gone back and forth here. There was a basic energy attached to the origin form Dialga V-Star in the active.
And we do see a Silene hit a heads.
And then just a pass back and forth. These are just how these turns are going right now. Just passing back and forth for both of these players. The Silene hitting the head. Ooh.
Yep, he gets to put any 1 card back. I think did grab the POW pad there.
Okay.
So I think Xander is just hoping that maybe there's a way Mees decks out first.
Yeah, obviously looking through that discard pile that Mees has, just trying to identify everything that's in there and make sure you can see what the outs are for your opponents. And then we are going to see those two supporters go back in with the Pal Pad.
Yeah, and I think Xander probably, if he didn't realize it before, he realizes now there's no way that Mees can deck out before Xander does. He just put back the Team Yell's cheer. He probably understands how Mees gets that infinite now by using Pal Pad plus Silene plus the Team Yell's cheer to never deck out. It is theoretically possible for Mees to still deck out because he could just flip a ton of tails on the Silene, but it is very low percentage chance.
Yeah, I mean, that's multiple cards that are recycling cards in your deck, which is very powerful and kind of necessary in this control deck right now, with this strategy at least that we're seeing currently. So I'm curious to see now, kind of understanding more of the strategy that Mees deck has, what we're going to see from Xander here.
Mees does get to start here, does top deck the Team Yell's cheer. Quick Ball can grab that Pyukumuku.
Pyukumuku pitching another card potentially as well.
This can maybe find Mees the Silene this turn if there's something he wants to put back specifically.
I'm kind of wondering if Xander was just trying to deck out Mees as well, potentially. Maybe just hope for the tails hits, or just hope that there's some sort of...
Yeah, I think Mees accidentally put the Pyukumuku on the top of the deck. It does need to go to the bottom. Yeah, Xander caught it right away.
That's good.
All good there.
No, I think it's this way.
It is very easy to fix because there is just one card in Mees' deck. So yeah, let's slide it to the bottom.
Because that is an important part of the card there. You can't use it if there is no cards in your deck.
Definitely.
So that is very important. So obviously we are going to see more recycling from Mees here in order to also be able to pitch that back as well. And just kind of remain having cards in their deck, which Mees, I'm sure, is hoping that Xander cannot do. And we'll deck out here. I think there's only 3 cards left.
Yeah, Xander does go on the offensive here. Metal Blast picks up the KO on Snorlax, but now with 2 Miltank in play. And Mees having access to Silene and the Team Yell's cheer. It is looking bleak.
It has dwindled down to so many of these damage counters on the board. Say 3 cards left, and Mees still with so many recycling abilities, which is what we are seeing right now here.
You can put back any combination of supporters and Pokemon, so we see Snorlax making its way back. Yep. And Peonia is another option.
And a Silene shuffling back into the deck. Or
yeah, he does have Ultra Ball, so I think he's going to just play the Ultra Ball here and get that Pyukumuku.
Okay, cool.
Or the Snorlax.
Or the Snorlax.
Sure.
There we go. Now shuffling up the deck, putting it back there. We were seeing a cut on 3 cards. Very difficult to do, picking up that few cards. And we are going to finally see that Crushing Hammer from hands. I don't think we've seen that. Oh, no, we saw 1 Crushing Hammer hit.
It's been lower than 50%, though. Yeah, that is for sure.
That is unfortunate. I think across both of these games, too. Yeah. So that is unfortunate.
And Route is dealing enough to pick up this KO. Miltank takes down the mighty Dialga.
Miltank carrying the team here, taking those 2 prize cards for Mees, and Xander promoting into this Mew with the Mysterious Tail ability, which I don't even think we have seen so far, which is such an important aspect of these turbo-style fast-paced. I'd say fast-paced and like not really fast-paced at the same time, but wanting to search out those cards and be able to kind of just like buy you some time.
Oh, 4 Metal Saucers. All right, Xander can pull off the Star Chronos this turn if he wants to.
Saving up all those Metal Saucers. I don't know if we've ever seen that before. 4 Metal Saucers being played at once. That is amazing.
He slammed them all down.
Scoop up net on that Mew.
Here comes Dialga. He's got boss's orders. This can KO the Snorlax on the bench.
Goodness. All right, here we go. Bossing up that Snorlax.
Xander's like, hey, listen, I might not be able to hit a Miltank, but I can definitely hit a Snorlax.
Yes, hitting and knocking out that Snorlax.
220 damage from the Star Chronos, and you get to skip your opponent's next turn. Oh, actually, Oh, I think he just bossed and went for the Metal Blast, it seems.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think you're right
Holding
about
off
that.
on the Star Chronos. Okay.
I mean, if we're not going to be able to see a one-hit knockout on this Origin form Dialga, then I mean, I guess we do have some options here.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and just play into exactly what you want. I'm still shocked about that 4 Metal Saucer. That is so cool to see.
Yeah, maybe Xander's maybe hoping, hey, maybe Mees messes up and puts the Mewtwo
exactly.
V Union in play. If Mees throws the Mewtwo V Union in play, Xander can go boss Star Chronos into Metal Blast. But,
oh my goodness, yeah, that would be wild. And just take 3 prize cards off of that.
Ooh, and we're seeing the Sydney here. Your opponent reveals their hand, and then you get to discard 2 in any combination of Pokemon tools and special energy. So Mees is going to get to just take a moment here and look through this absolutely massive hand size of Xander.
Yes.
And does discard a Path to the Peak.
There we go. All right. Okay, looks like Mees just going again in for that route with the Miltank for 50 damage on the Origin form Dialga and just passing it back to Xander. So now it's kind of in Xander's field. And is that one card?
Yeah, it's 1 card left, and Xander knows he cannot win this game. He figures this has gone on long enough. Let's scoop it up, and we'll go to a game 2. Mees Brenninkmeijer winning game number 1 with the Miltank control deck.
Absolutely wild there, and I think I saw that we only had 19 minutes.
That's right.
Left heading into this game 2. This is where you kind of see, I guess, control in a more grindy version. The first way we saw it played was with that V Union taking out knockouts and healing itself as well. And now we're going to see kind of an alternative way to play it, and just leading with these Miltanks, stalling out your opponents and waiting for them to just deck out, which is exactly what we just saw there. So I'm very, very curious to see if it'll be sort of the same strategy, or now that Xander has more of a more insight on what Mees is playing now, if it'll be a little bit different. And also, hopefully, we don't see another Crobat start.
Right, yeah, that would definitely be ideal. I'm pretty sure what Xander is hoping for here is that Mees just has a bad start in this game. He can win very quickly. You know, his deck is very turbo, as it is known to be. So he can really threaten easy turn 1 KOs with things like the Zacian V, with the Metal Saucers, with the attach for turn. You really only need to play 2 Saucers to pull that off. So if Xander can maybe get a lucky game where Mees only has 1 basic to start with and he can just win a fast one, there is a chance that this game will just end in a tie, and Xander would be very fine to come away from a bad matchup with a 1 match point result. And
it's very possible for that to happen, because we kind of saw it happen in the match before.
Yes,
with
we
Xander
did exactly.
Piloting the control version of the deck. It's kind of confusing. Xander and Xander is what we're saying now.
Yeah, we saw Xander playing it earlier. Of course, Xander being featured this round.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, okay. But yes, now seeing Mees pilot this control deck, it could potentially happen just like it did for Xander, where you just don't get that early game setup that you need, especially when your deck kind of so heavily relies on it. It's cool to see, though, once it does get set up, like, you're kind of just rolling. And you're recycling, and you're chilling. So
we see that Radiant Greninja in the prizes once again for Xander. 2 games in a row.
Unfortunate.
And Xander did choose to go first. Part of me was actually kind of wondering if he would ever choose to go second here and hope that Mees doesn't have a great start, since he can't play a supporter, can't really get through the deck, and Xander could try to go for a quick win, but does think better of it and goes first here and plays the energy search and gets to look through the deck here, get an energy card, and he'll take a moment to check his prize cards as well. Yeah,
it's interesting. I think in the last game, Xander kind of had almost an identical first turn, just a different and a better starting Pokemon this time, besides that, or not having that Crobat V, and instead having the Mysterious Tail Mew, which is very important. So we are going to see both those energy searches. Now we're quick balling out one of those energies, and I think we saw the Origin form Dialga V searched out with that quick ball for Xander. And of course, we still, now at least Xander has the ability to draw some more cards with that Mew. So even if the hand is bad, you still kind of get an opportunity to rescue yourself out of that. Oh, and off the trekking shoes, having that Zacian V is kind of an easy pick there.
100%. Yeah, we saw Xander really utilizing that in the first game. It's going to be excellent in the early turns to just use Intrepid Sword, build up a large hand so you can try to find a combo that lets you respond to whatever Mees is trying to set up.
Yeah, you're trying to outplay the control player, essentially. Yep. They're trying to control you, and you're trying to not let them.
No.
So we did see that mysterious tail. And now we are seeing a quick ball discarding another Mew into a Crobat V. That Crobat V, I don't even think we've really talked about it, but having that Dark Asset ability to be played down onto the bench and draw up to 6 cards in your hand. So you kind of want to whittle down your hand and then be able to play it down and draw up to 6, which is exactly what we're going to see now after we saw that Training Court come into play as well. Trekking Shoes, another Training Court, choosing to discard it this time and go for the card on top, which I think was that Hisuian Heavy
That's
Ball?
right, yeah, and that is a great card to see because Xander prized that Radiant Greninja. So right away, plays the Heavy Ball, grabs the Greninja, puts it
easy,
out.
easy there. As soon as you see that Greninja and you have the ability to grab that Heavy Ball, that is the easy choice there. So actually turning into a very optimal start here for Xander.
I mean, this is turn 1, and Xander can't even play a supporter.
Yeah,
Look, he has gotten through the
look
deck so much. He's using Intrepid Sword, throwing an extra energy into play. You can see just the power level of Xander's deck. It is unfortunate, though, that we're not getting to see it on full display since it is such a tough matchup for him.
Yeah, it is being played against a very interesting deck on the back end here for Mees. So Mees starting off with a quick ball, discarding a Psychic Energy, and going in to pick out a basic Pokemon. We do see that, the Miltank going to top here. Kind of very important in this matchup here for Mees.
I think Mees has realized that Xander does not have a great response to this Miltank. So if I just put it into play, I think I will probably be okay. I think Mees did see the Rowlet last game when he played Sydney. He got to look at Xander's full hand, so he should have picked up on that. He saw that Xander plays multiple Bird Keeper. So that's really his only option to try and hit this Miltank. And I actually wonder if we would ever see Mees just scoop up net to pick up the Snorlax out of the active spot because Rowlet can only target benched Pokemon, and if Miltank is active, I actually just literally think there's nothing for Xander to do.
That's very true, and honestly, that's a really good point, Chip, that Mees waited that long until Xander pretty much had the entire deck in hand.
So he got full knowledge,
full knowledge, absolutely. So there's not going to be any sort of like surprises here for Mees as long as there was a good look at all of the cards that Xander is playing. We do see the bump of the stadium here, bumping that Training Court for the Rose Tower. And then was that the
I believe
Gorman
a research.
Oh, okay,
discard the hand, draw 7. And a Trekking Shoes here, get through a little bit more. Does find that Cape of Toughness.
Lining up that Miltank to the best of its ability. And then the pitch there for the draw off of top.
Goodbye, Pikamuku.
Yes, goodbye. You were in the hand not long enough. And then we see the big Parasol being attached to the Snorlax here. Flannery, I think, was the draw off the top there.
Yep, he's got it there in hand. Definitely an interesting tech. Super useful against specific matchups like the Mew VMAX. And Gormandize will fill this hand all the way up.
All the way up to 7 cards, and then we are just going back to Xander. Already kind of a beefy hand there. Going straight in with that mysterious tail off the Mew, looking at the top 6 cards and drawing out an item card from it. Grabbing that quick ball and using the quick ball, discarding a Crobat V to search out a basic Pokemon.
Ooh, is it Rowlet time?
It might be Rowlet time. It might be little baby owl time.
Wind Shard can deal 60 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So with that Miltank sitting there on the bench, maybe if Xander has a Bird Keeper waiting in hand, he'll get a free attack off here. Try to pressure that Miltank a little bit.
That is very interesting. What other matchups does that Rowlet help with?
I think it is literally a tech for Miltank. It obviously doesn't do much in this matchup because Mees has the Cape of Toughness and also has the scoop up nets to just heal the Miltanks. But it can be actually pretty nice against something like the Blissey deck that got 2nd place because they only have 1 Miltank. So if you can deal with that 1 Miltank, just 2-hit KO it with the Wind Shard, with the multiple Bird Keeper that Xander plays, it's not too bad.
All right, so we did see the Rowlet inactive there now with a Metal Energy on it, and now we are back to Mees here, starting off the turn We saw a draw for turn, and then now just deciding what to do with this hand. I think we are going to see an Ultra Ball, discarding an Avery, and I didn't get to see, I think it's Peonia.
I think it's
well.
that Flannery goes down.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, you might be right. It is the Flannery. And then searching out another Miltank. So similar strategy that we're seeing here from Mees. I mean, if it worked out so well the first time, might as well do it again, especially with that Miltank. Already having some damage on it, it's important to line up the rest of your strategy here. So rebenching the Snorlax after... Promote, was it a scoop up net?
Yeah, picks up the Snorlax, sends up the Miltank. Miltank will be able to just KO the Rowlet, and Crushing Hammer hits the heads to bop the energy off of the bench.
See it, the heads. That's now 2 for 2. I think we're even on the heads. So there we go.
Silene can flip a couple coins here.
Didn't get the first. Will get the second, though. So allowing Mees to just search out. There we go, the trekking shoes, and just putting it back onto the top of the deck. And then we're going to see the Rose Tower to just grab not only the trekking shoes, but another card on top of that. And then there we go. We're going to see the pitch as well. It's really cool to see these control decks come together and just see like the engine actually play out.
Definitely.
And see all of these recycled cards. Yeah, there's so many people that are adverse. Oh,
and Xander just concedes once Mees announces route, KOs the Rowlet. Xander has no way to respond to a Miltank.
Wow.
Scoops it up, and Mees wins a pretty convincing 2-0 match.
Yes, wow. Even with those 9 minutes left, I think Xander is like, well, I don't see a way out of this, and I don't know if I want to be playing this for another 9 minutes.
It's a tough matchup for Xander, a really tough pairing to hit this in round.